The last video covered an introduction to sheet metal as well as briefly covering the base flange tab option. If you haven't looked at the last one, it covers how to change dimensions as well as update the parameters. In this video I'll be talking more about the profiles that you can create within a base flange tab. So if I create an open sketch like this is going to create a feature much like an extruded thin that you would create using the extruded boss base. And whatever parameters we selected, for example this radius, is going to be applied to any sharp corners that we have in the part. If I went and modified this sketch and added fillets to both of these corners, that's going to come in and override the bend radius, as we already have it built in to the profile. Next, if we go ahead and delete this out, we can also create a closed profile. I'm going to choose the center rectangle and choose out a plane, and simply draw in that rectangle. Now if I create a base flange, it's going to fill in that space instead of creating an extruded thin. And then I can go ahead and choose a thickness. For a closed sketch, I can pretty much draw out any geometry I want. If I wanted to create a spline or a closed spline entity, I can do that. I can create holes within the feature. And you just want to make sure that, just like an extrusion, you have one closed profile and you can have cutouts within that, but you don't want to put anything on the outside of this. As unlike the extrude option, you don't have a contour select option with the sheet metal. I'll go ahead and just delete these out. So I'll go ahead and create a sketch on the front plane using the spline tool. And with sheet metal features, for any open geometry where it creates essentially an extruded thin, it's going to need a consistent radius to view for the bends. So if I try to create a base flange from this sketch, it's going to say that this contains unsuitable geometry, as the spline has a changing radius, and that's invalid for a sheet metal part. If instead I select the 3-point arc, for example, I can create multiple arc segments. And I should be able to create a base flange. Because each one of these segments has its own radius, it's able to create the sheet metal part. And since I didn't make those edges tangent, it went ahead and used this bend radius to fill in that gap. And with a rounded object like this, when I flatten out the part, you'll see it places a bend line at the center of each of these arcs. And also places a bend line at the areas where the arcs meet. But those are the various kinds of base flanges you can create. Just keep in mind what is an acceptable profile versus what is an unacceptable profile for a sheet metal feature.